You know, usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis or like a physical limitation at work, there's this expectation of precision.
Right, like it's engineering or something.
Exactly. It's like you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points to the screen and says, there it is, broken.
And, well, that's comforting because it's binary. We inherently like things to be visible and easily categorized,
Totally.
especially when it comes to occupational health, workplace safety, and managing performance.
But then you step into the world of menopausal fatigue, and that x-ray machine is completely useless. I mean, we're looking at a diagnostic and workplace landscape that is murky, highly subjective, and mostly invisible. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are unpacking a massive stack of guidelines. We've got stuff from health clinics like menopause care, workplace design strategies from experts at JLL, and official health and safety guidance from authorities like the UK's Health and Safety Executive and the Trades Union Congress.
A lot of ground to cover.
It is. And our mission today is really to focus on this perfect storm. We're looking at the collision of menopausal fatigue with the physical demands of heavy manual labor.
Which is a critical focus, really. I mean, hot flushes tend to dominate all the media coverage surrounding menopause, right?
Yeah, that's the cliche for sure.
But the actual data reveals something much more debilitating. Fatigue is actually consistently logged as the most severe, life-altering symptom by hundreds of thousands of women.
Wow, the most severe.
Yes, and when you take that profound, bone-deep exhaustion and you drop it onto a factory floor for an 8-hour shift or like into a hospital ward where someone is lifting patients, the situation becomes incredibly precarious.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to start with the biology of this burnout, right? Because reading through the medical literature, one thing becomes crystal clear. This is not just, being tired.
Not at all.
Right. Tiredness is what happens after a long commute or a busy week. You sleep, you rest, you recover.
Yeah, but the medical consensus describes menopausal fatigue as this severe mental and physical exhaustion that, well, it simply does not improve with standard rest.
It doesn't improve at all.
Barely. Women in these clinical studies frequently use this one specific phrase. They describe their daily experience as wading through treacle.
Oh, wow. That sounds awful.
It is. The heaviness is systemic. And to understand how to manage it in a workplace, we have to look at the hormonal root causes that are basically short-circuiting the body's energy grid.
Okay, so let's get into the hormones. The primary culprit everyone knows is estrogen, right?
Correct.
As estrogen levels drop and just wildly fluctuate, the body loses its ability to effectively regulate its core temperature. And that's the mechanism triggering the hot flushes and the night sweats.
Exactly. So estrogen has a direct line to the hypothalamus, which acts as the body's internal thermostat.
Okay.
When estrogen drops, that thermostat misreads the body's temperature. It thinks it's overheating when it isn't.
Wait, really? It's literally a glitch.
It is. The body reacts by triggering massive sweats to cool down. And if you're waking up drenched multiple times a night, your sleep architecture is completely shattered.
Because you keep waking up.
Right. You are constantly pulled out of the deep, restorative REM sleep. And that's the sleep that repairs muscle tissue and clears out cognitive fog.
But the temperature spikes ruining sleep are just one layer of this, right? The research points heavily to progesterone as well.
Yes, very heavily.
From what I understand, progesterone acts as a crucial neurological communicator. It actually stimulates the brain to produce a neurotransmitter called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, right?
You got it. And GABA functions as the central nervous system's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter.
Inhibitory meaning?
It essentially acts as the brain's brake pedal.
Okay, the brake pedal.
Yeah. It naturally lowers anxiety, boosts feelings of calmness, and significantly improves our baseline pain threshold. It's the literal chemical signal that tells your entire nervous system it is safe to relax, shut down, and initiate rejuvenating sleep.
Okay, so when progesterone levels drop during perimenopause and menopause, GABA production drops right along with it.
Exactly.
Which means, without that chemical brake pedal, it becomes physically and mentally impossible to wind down. Your brain is essentially idling at a high RPM all night long.
That's spot on. You're losing the specific chemical required to relax while simultaneously dealing with a glitching thermostat that wakes you up shivering or sweating.
That is brutal.
And compounding all of this is the drop in testosterone.
Right, because women produce testosterone just like men do, just in smaller amounts.
Right, and it plays a vital role in maintaining muscle mass and bone density.
The guidelines note that decreased testosterone reduces the body's ability to turn fat into muscle, which, I mean, directly saps physical stamina and literally weakens grip strength.
Yeah, the grip strength reduction is a huge factor.
I can imagine. If your daily job involves carrying heavy loads or operating power tools or gripping machinery, losing that baseline strength isn't just exhausting, it's an active safety hazard.
The physiological toll is immense. The hardware of the body is struggling to maintain muscle, while the neurological software is sending chaotic signals about temperature and stress.
It sounds like trying to run a smartphone on a 1% battery.
Yeah, but with a broken charging port.
Right. And all the background apps, like temperature regulation, are completely glitching out and draining whatever tiny bit of power is left.
That visual perfectly captures the absolute systemic failure occurring during these fatigue waves. And it also dictates how we have to approach managing it.
So let's talk about that personal management piece. Now that we know why the battery is constantly draining, how do you individually manage and refuel that energy before you even step foot into a demanding physical job?
Well, healthcare professionals recommend a framework they call the 3 Ps.
Pacing, planning, and prioritizing.
Exactly. And this framework requires a fundamental shift in how you view your daily energy. You have to treat it like a strictly capped financial budget.
So you can't just push through.
No, you can't. Pacing means intentionally spreading activities out rather than front-loading your day. Planning involves building deliberate, non-negotiable rest breaks into your schedule to recharge.
And prioritizing.
That's the ruthless process of deciding what is absolutely critical to accomplish today and what must be delegated or delayed.
But fueling that specific energy budget requires some serious dietary adjustments, right? One detail from the clinical sources that stood out to me was that a drop in estrogen actually causes your cells to dehydrate faster.
What's fascinating here is that estrogen plays a major role in how our bodies distribute fluid.
Really?
Yeah, and how we produce hyaluronic acid, which keeps tissues lubricated. When estrogen declines, the body literally struggles to hold on to water at a microscopic cellular level.
So you're just constantly drying out.
Essentially, yes. You have to aggressively overhydrate to manually offset what the hormone used to handle automatically.
The clinics also emphasize eating phytoestrogens. We're talking about foods like soy, flaxseed, and lentils, which can help naturally balance out those fluctuating hormones.
Phytoestrogens are so interesting because they are plant-based compounds with a chemical structure that's strikingly similar to human estrogen.
Oh, I see.
When you consume them, they can actually bind to the empty estrogen receptors in your cells. It's like a lock and key mechanism.
So it tricks the body.
In a way. While their effect is much weaker than the body's natural estrogen, they provide just enough of a biological signal to soften the severity of the hormonal crash. It eases the temperature swings and the fatigue.
So you're manually overriding a glitching system. You also need to maintain steady blood sugar, right? By eating whole grains and regular meals every 3 to 4 hours to avoid sharp energy crashes.
Yeah, blood sugar crashes will just make the fatigue 10 times worse.
But okay, the intervention that feels the most counterintuitive to me is exercise.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when you wake up exhausted, wading through that treacle, going for a run, or lifting weights sounds like a punishment.
I know, the initial hurdle is enormous. But the medical evidence supporting exercise is overwhelming. We're looking at moderate aerobic exercise like brisk walking, cycling, or cold water swimming, which is increasingly recommended for its vascular benefits.
Cold water swimming, wow.
Yeah, paired closely with strength training.
But wait, if the battery is at 1%, spending energy seems like the exact opposite of what you should do.
I get that. But movement triggers the release of endorphins. And those act as natural mood elevators to counteract the anxiety caused by that severe drop in GABA we discussed earlier.
Oh, so it manually pumps the brakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more crucially, the strength training is what actively fights against the testosterone-driven loss of muscle mass and bone density.
Okay, that makes sense.
The NHS actually sets a goal of 2 hours and 30 minutes of moderate activity a week. But the caveat here is vital. It is about maintaining the machinery, not overexerting to the point of collapse.
Right. And the sources also point to medical interventions, primarily hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. This directly supplements the declining estrogen and progesterone to, well, physically stabilize the system.
Right.
And they strongly advise seeing a doctor to rule out other insidious causes of fatigue, like thyroid dysfunction or anemia, because those can perfectly mimic or severely compound menopausal exhaustion.
Absolutely. Managing the internal environment through diet, pacing, and potentially HRT is step one. But the environment you walk into every day plays an equally massive role.
Right, and that brings us to the workplace itself. So we're pivoting from the individual's personal management to the physical environment, specifically looking at manual and active jobs.
Yes.
A government literature review on this intersection paints a pretty bleak picture, actually.
It does. The data reveals that women in lower-paid manual jobs report significantly higher psychological burdens and musculoskeletal symptoms, and these directly impair their performance.
Because of the physical nature of the work.
Yes, the physical symptoms of menopause, the joint stiffness, the aching muscles, the decreasing bone density, they interact disastrously with the core requirements of manual labor.
Especially when you layer the specific environmental hazards of these jobs on top of that biology. We're talking about heavy lifting, prolonged static postures like standing at a conveyor belt for 12 hours, and unventilated personal protective equipment, or PPE.
Yes, the PPE is a huge factor.
I was also struck by the mention of restrictive bathroom breaks.
That is a critical stressor.
I mean, if you are dealing with irregularly heavy bleeding or sudden urogenital issues and you have to raise your hand to ask a factory supervisor for permission to use the restroom, that is humiliating.
It really is.
It spikes cortisol and anxiety, which only drains that energy budget faster.
And this systemic friction raises a profound question about how we design occupational safety in the first place.
House.
Well, the Trades Union Congress offers a sharp critique of gender-blind health and safety policies. Historically, occupational safety has operated under a single standard, basing regulations and gear on a default worker who is implicitly assumed to be a young, healthy male.
Wait, let me push back on that framing for a second. Gender blind as a negative thing. Isn't treating everyone exactly the same supposed to be the ultimate goal of workplace equality?
You'd think so, right? But treating people identically only works if those people have identical biological baselines and identical physical needs.
Which they don't.
Exactly.
Hey.
True workplace equality actually requires a gender-sensitive approach.
Okay, give me an example.
Consider standard safety gear, like a heavy high-visibility jacket or a full-face protective visor. If that gear is designed based on male thermoregulation, the classic one-size-fits-all blanket issue,
Yeah.
it might function perfectly for a 30-year-old man.
Sure.
But for a menopausal woman experiencing intense hot flushes, that unventilated, synthetic, ill-fitting gear becomes a suffocating hazard.
Because it's trapping all the heat.
Right. It traps heat, elevates her core temperature dangerously, and exacerbates her fatigue to an intolerable level. Identical treatment in this case actively creates an unequal burden.
Oh, I see. By trying to be fair and treating everyone the same, the system actively harms one group because the baseline standard was never built for their biology.
Exactly. A gender-sensitive approach corrects that by acknowledging the biological differences, identifying how risks impact different bodies, and proposing control measures that actually protect the health of the entire workforce rather than just the default majority.
Okay, since treating everyone exactly the same fails menopausal workers, the obvious question is how we practically redesign manual and physical workspaces.
Yeah, that's the real challenge.
The safety guidelines detail some incredibly concrete, systemic solutions that go far beyond just, putting a fan on a desk.
Yes. One of the most powerful diagnostic tools recommended by the TUC is a technique called body mapping.
I loved reading about this.
It's low-tech, but highly revealing. Workers are given a paper drawing of a human body and colored markers. They're asked to mark exactly where they feel pain, stress, or discomfort resulting from their job.
Like drawing on the actual areas.
Right. They might use red for physical aches in their joints and green for areas of psychological stress or fatigue.
This directly solves the broken X-ray problem we talked about at the beginning. It takes invisible menopausal symptoms and translates them into a highly visual, undeniable hazard map.
Exactly.
Safety representatives can look at a whole department's maps, see a dense cluster of red dots on the lower backs and knees of their female workforce, and instantly know that the manual handling tasks or the standing requirements in that specific area are failing their workers.
It's brilliant because it moves the entire conversation from a vague, easily dismissible personal complaint to a documented, actionable occupational health issue. And once that data is visible, management can implement targeted physical adjustments.
And the adjustments for manual roles are very practical. Things like providing cushioned anti-fatigue floor mats for those who have to stand at stations all day. That protects those aching estrogen-deprived joints.
Definitely.
Offering the ability to temporarily switch to lighter duties when symptoms flare up is another huge mitigation strategy.
Altering shift times is also highly effective. I mean, if severe night sweats are destroying a worker's sleep architecture, granting them the flexibility to start a shift slightly later in the morning can be the difference between retaining a skilled worker and losing them to medical leave.
I found the concept of thermal mapping fascinating too. Workplaces can digitally map out the hot and cold spots in a massive building or on a factory floor.
Yeah, it's a great application of technology.
They can literally architect cooler zones where workers can take breaks or reposition workstations to optimize natural ventilation and air conditioning flow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about designing the environment to passively assist the body's thermoregulation, rather than forcing the body to fight the environment. And uniform redesigns follow the exact same logic.
Yeah, moving away from cheap nylon and synthetic materials is a major priority. Synthetics just trap sweat and heat against the skin. Transitioning to breathable natural fibers makes a massive difference.
Huge difference.
So does offering uniforms designed for layering. A worker can peel off a heavy outer layer during a hot flush and put it back on when the post-flush chill hits.
Simple but effective.
And the guidelines also stress making it incredibly easy and completely stigma-free to request extra uniform sets if a worker sweats through theirs during a shift.
And beyond uniforms, JLL, the workplace design experts, recommend an infrastructural addition they call comfort cabinets in employee restrooms.
I think every workplace needs these. These are discreet, unlocked cabinets stocked with free sanitary ware, spare clothes in various sizes, wipes, and shower gel. If a sudden emergency happens, like a heavy, unexpected bleed or a massive hot flush, the worker can deal with it privately and comfortably. They don't have to awkwardly ask a manager to go home, and they don't have to suffer through the rest of their shift in discomfort.
You know, the broader impact of these systemic changes is often overlooked. Redesigning for menopause is actually a classic example of the curb cut effect.
Oh, like when cities designed sidewalk intersections with sloped ramps for wheelchairs, suddenly people pushing strollers or delivery drivers using hand trucks and travelers pulling rolling luggage, all of them benefited from a design intended for a specific group.
Exactly. Better ventilation, access to cold drinking water, rigorous ergonomic assessments, breathable safety gear, and flexible brake policies. They do not solely benefit menopausal women.
They help everybody.
Yes. These changes improve the baseline productivity, long-term health, and daily safety of the entire workforce. A cushioned floor mat preserves the 25-year-old warehouse worker's knees just as effectively as it protects the 50-year-olds. It is fundamentally about designing work to fit the human form, rather than forcing the human body to relentlessly endure the work.
So we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We started deep inside the biology of fatigue, looking at how drops in estrogen wreck the body's thermostat, how plummeting GABA leaves the brain's brake pedal useless, and how reduced testosterone literally drains physical strength.
A literal full-body systems check.
Yeah. And then we explored personal management strategies, from treating energy like a strict budget with the 3 Ps to utilizing phytoestrogens and that counterintuitive strength training.
Right.
And finally, we looked at how manual labor environments must evolve, moving away from gender-blind hazards to gender-sensitive solutions like body mapping, thermal investments, and comfort cabinets.
Which really shows that managing menopausal fatigue, especially in physically demanding roles, requires an alliance between individual preparation and systemic workplace support.
Absolutely.
Whether you are personally navigating this profound exhaustion, managing a team of manual workers, or simply aiming to be a well-informed colleague, understanding the biological reality is what dismantles the stigma. It stops being a whispered women's issue that people are too embarrassed to bring up and rightfully becomes a standard occupational health metric to be scientifically managed and mitigated.
Because knowledge transforms the invisible into the actionable, which, makes you wonder if our traditional workplaces, heavy safety gear, and shift schedules were originally designed centuries ago around the biological rhythms and physical baselines of young men.
Right.
What completely new industries, technologies, or work schedules might emerge if we redesign the economy around the biological realities of every life stage?
It's a huge question.
It is. Menopausal fatigue might not show up as a jagged white line on a standard medical x-ray. But once you know how the biology and the environment interact, the breaks in the system are just as clear, and more importantly, they're entirely fixable. So keep asking questions, keep looking past the obvious, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.